On the floor of the Amazon rainforest, there are rivers that carry no water. They are a few centimeters wide, they run for 100 meters or more, and they flow with pieces of green leaf fragments, each one held overhead by an ant, moving in a column that does not stop for nightfall. Follow the river upstream and you reach a tree being taken apart, one crescent at a time. Follow it downstream and you reach the strangest fact about this animal. The ants carrying the leaves will not eat them. Almost no leafcutter ever eats a leaf. The leafcutter ants of the genus Atta live across the warm Americas, and the rainforest is where their economy runs at full scale. A mature colony holds workers in the millions, housed in a nest that can reach meters down into the forest floor, a city of chambers connected by tunnels, excavated grain by grain. The workers come in sizes built for tasks. Small gardeners that rarely leave the nest, mid-sized foragers that cut and carry, broad-headed soldiers, and tiny workers that ride on the carried leaf fragments like passengers, standing guard against parasitic flies that try to lay eggs on the carriers below. The leaves explain themselves underground. A forager cuts with jaws that work like shears, scribing an arc through the blade, and carries the fragment home held above her body, a load that can outweigh her several times over. Inside the nest, smaller workers take the harvest, lick it clean, cut it smaller, chew the pieces to pulp, and bed the pulp into garden chambers. And on those beds grows the actual food, a fungus, soft and pale, that exists nowhere on Earth outside these nests. The fungus digests the leaves, including compounds the ants themselves could never process, and puts out swollen, nutrient-rich tips, which the ants harvest and feed to the colony. The larvae are raised on it. The whole society runs on it. The leaves were never the meal. They are the compost, and the column on the forest floor is not a raid. It is a harvest going to the barn. A farm needs more than a crop, and the colony keeps the rest of the toolkit. Workers patrol the gardens and weed them by mouth, pulling out alien molds before they spread. One parasite in particular, a mold that eats the crop itself, would ruin a garden left untended, and against it the ants carry their own treatment. Many workers wear a pale, powdery bloom on their bodies that is not dust but a living culture of bacteria, and the bacteria produce compounds that suppress the invader. The spent compost goes to dedicated refuse chambers, handled by waste workers that tend to stay with the dump. Crop, weeding, pest control, sanitation, the vocabulary is agricultural because the system is. People took a long time to believe this. For centuries, the assumption was the obvious one, that the ants ate the leaves. It was a mining engineer in Nicaragua, Thomas Belt, who watched the columns long enough to argue otherwise, in a book published in 1874. The leaves, he wrote, were grown into a crop the ants actually ate. He was right, and the claim has only deepened since. The partnership between these ants and their fungus is tens of millions of years old. Agriculture on this planet was not invented once by people 10,000 years ago. It was invented in the American tropics by an insect unimaginably earlier, and it has never once failed since. At the scale of the forest, the colony is a force of nature in the plain sense. Leafcutters are among the most significant consumers of vegetation in the neotropics, pruning the canopy fragment by fragment, and their digging turns over and aerates tons of soil, carrying nutrients downward the way earthworms do in temperate ground. A single nest concentrates the forest's scattered fertility into one place, which is why, when a colony dies, the ground above it often blooms. The column will still be moving after dark, headlamps not required, each fragment tilted like a sail. Somewhere beneath the forest floor, the gardens are being weeded, the compost turned, the crop fed and harvested, a farm that has been running, without interruption, since long before there was anyone to name it.